Hello. So last time we looked at setting up Git worktrees so that we can run multiple coding agents in parallel on the same code base. And we did all of that in the terminal. We managed it manually, and we talked about why we would use Git worktrees as opposed to Git branches to do all of this. If you want to know more about that, go check out the last video. It's pretty short and sweet. But a day after I released that video, OpenAI released the Codex application, and that Codex application also treats worktrees as something like a first-class citizen. And so I thought I would show you how I'm using it at the moment. And so we'll do kind of a quick run through using the same setup as we did last time. So if you remember from last time, we have this little HTML site. So if I do ls, you can see we've got two files here, index.html and script.js. And then we can look inside of both of them. Index.html is just boilerplate, and script is empty. So we're going to use agents once again to fill in the blanks there. So what's new is, instead of handling all of this in the terminal, what we're going to do is look at this new OpenAI Codex application. And I've been using it for the week that it's been out so far, and I'm getting a ton of mileage out of having multiple agents working on the code base. And so I want to show you how I'm doing it. This won't be a survey of how all the different ways that you could be doing it. It's going to show you what's working for me, as a lot of this stuff is still in flux. So keep in mind, if you're watching this video a little bit later after it's been published, there's a good chance that some of the things I show you will have moved around in the UI. Certainly for me, they've moved around a lot, even in the first week. So that having been said, some of this stuff I think will stand the test of time. So I wanted to show it to you early so you can get up and running using multiple agents on your code. So on the left-hand panel here in Codex, you can see there's some quick actions at the top, and then we have a threads section. And this is where your conversations with your agents are going to be organized by project. So I have a few projects here, but the one that we'll be working on is Codex worktrees. And if I hover over it long enough, we'll see the path is the same as the path that I have over here in my terminal. So over here on the right-hand side, you'll see that the main action is going to happen in a chatbot, just like you would expect. So all the chats are down here. And then there's some configuration stuff, some of which we'll play with later today. And then finally, up here in the top right, we have a way to basically an escape hatch back to VS Code or whatever other coding apps I might want to use. A little bit of Git management UI, which we'll largely avoid today. And then a couple of other just features to open the integrated terminal or to open a diff view. And we'll probably look at both of those just a little bit later on. For now, let's go ahead and get some work going. I've already opened a project, so get this Codex worktrees, and then we're gonna start a new conversation. So I click this button, and we have this chat window, which was already open. So the main thing that we need to be sure to do is that make sure that we're working in worktrees. So instead of managing that in the command line like we did last time, we're gonna come down here to the bottom, and probably by default, it's gonna say local for you, like it does for me. And instead, we're going to pick new worktree. After that, you'll see we have some other configuration options, most of which we will ignore for today. If you are working in a larger code base, this environment setting thing is really cool, but we won't touch on it right now. For now, what we want to do is start prompting the agent to do the same thing we did last time. So off screen, I have copied the same prompt we used last time verbatim, and we're going to ask one agent to start working on the UI for our HTML page. While that is working, we're going to go ahead and spin up a new thread, and we want to make sure that that is sitting on the selection down here that says new worktree, just like we did a moment ago. And probably it'll remember what you want by default based on your last selection. So off screen again, I have copied our prompt to say, hi agent, please handle our JavaScript, our interactivity inside of this repo. And so it'll do that, and both of the bots are off to the races. So while they are working, I can open up the integrated terminal with this button or with Command J. And then if I do pwd, you'll see that we're not sitting in that same directory that we were here in the terminal where our canonical repo is. Last time I showed you how to manage your work trees by having them all be sibling directories of each other. And instead what Codex does, which I think I quite like, I certainly like it so far, is it puts everything under a .codex directory in your user directory by default. So instead of having to have all of that cruft in your face with all the different worktree directories, it shoves all of that somewhere else and lets you manage it inside of the application. So far, I've been really liking this setup. Okay, so let's go handle this first update from the agent. We see that it claims to have updated only index.html as we asked, and it says a little bit about what it did. If we wanted to verify that, we could open it in our code editor, or you get this diff panel, this very cramped diff panel all the way off to the side, and we can kind of try to make it a little bigger. For our purposes here, it doesn't matter. We can see that it's some basic HTML updates like what we asked. We've got a span and a button. Great. I think we're good. So what we're going to do now is ask the bot to handle the git commit for us. So what we're going to ask it for is to make a branch, commit on that branch, and then from the main canonical directory, we're going to have it merge our changes in. So let's ask that to the bot. Please make a new branch, commit these changes to that branch, and then from the canonical main branch directory, merge these changes in. Note that I kind of belabored that last point just a bit, because what you don't want is the bot to try to check out main here on the work tree. That defeats the purpose. So it needs to handle the merge from inside your canonical main. And so that's what I'm just trying to make sure it does. Now, over time, I expect that this is going to get a lot better in terms of handling the merges inside of the UI for Codex. They have some features for that now, like you can see this handoff to local button, and there are supposedly some other affordances, but I find one, they're changing really fast, and this kind of stuff I find a little bit obviously scarier. We want to be careful with it. And also I just want to, kind of show you something that should stand the test of time, because even though we're using an agent to set up our commands, we're still in control because we're asking it to run Unix commands that we could also run ourselves. Okay, so let's have a look at what it's asking me for. Codex will ask us when it does something that's potentially destructive, which is great. The command that it wants to run is git switch c codex/counter UI, which is going to make a new branch. And then it's going to git add index.html and then make a commit with a message. Perfect. That's exactly what we would have done. Now, what we're hoping to see next is that it's going to ask to do git and then -C and then run from this directory that we see in the terminal. And indeed, we do see that. So let's have a look here. Git -C, and then it wants to run git from that canonical repo. And it's going to run a status. So it's going to read status and then basically check to see if it's going to be fine for us to run this merge. What I don't like is this ellipsis at the end, because we don't know what that is truncating. Okay. So instead of fighting the UI, let's just correct this thing now. Can you ask me command by command whether you can run these things? As you had it set up, it was impossible to see. Okay, and while I was saying all that, it was doing other things. So let's see instead. Do you want to allow merging into main? So let's see. Okay, I'm just going to say no to all of this for a second. Ask it to stop. Sometimes you have to kind of wrangle control, which we don't need to be dictating into. Okay. Give me all of those commands above, but line by line. I just want to make sure that I can see every git command you're running before it goes. and some of those commands were being truncated in the UI. So what this means is probably we're going to end up playing a little bit of 20 questions with it, but when it comes to get, we want to be careful. And this is why I have like high anticipation for what's going to be available in the UI in the future. But for now, better to be safe than sorry. So it's going to run a get status. Okay, good so far. And then okay. So I think some of the stuff it says it wants to do, it already had done. So we should be focused on the get capital C stuff instead. Okay, so great. So for all of the ones that you want to run from the canonical repo, condense those into what would make sense logically, because I'm seeing a few duplicates there, and tell me what you're hoping to do in order to merge this work tree into the canonical main branch. Looks good, run them. Okay, so it's going to do some checking to make sure we're good. It's going to run the merge, and then it's going to confirm whether or not it merged successfully or not, which is what we would hope it would do. Before it runs that merge, it requests that I confirm. Okay, and then let's go over here and have a look. So we'll do a git log and see that yes, indeed, we have that commit is now in our main. And we can even do this just to see that we do have, what it did, by the way, is just add this span and button. So we're good there. Okay, so now we want to do the same thing over here in our other work tree. So let's do this. First of all, I guess we should start by confirming the work it did. So you could look over here and see, again, this is all just making a counter. So it made a little iffy that will put the counter on the DOM. We're pretty good with that. So this is the same as what we did last time. Now we're going to ask it to, since there's some new changes on main, we need to pull those in most likely. And then we'll do our merge. So we have some new updates on main, so we should probably pull those in, and I want after that to take your work and merge that into main. So in order to do that, we should make a new branch here on this work tree and then handle all of the work from there. Let's see what it makes of that sort of rambling statement. So it's saying that it's going to have a look at the current state, create a new branch here on this work tree, bring in the latest main, and then merge back into main. So just like last time, keep in mind that the setup here is pretty contrived. Like we're working on two files that are very much well-known quantities, right? Make some HTML, put a button on it. And so this probably feels like kind of overkill for that kind of work, and indeed it is. But when you're working on a much larger code base, you can imagine the possibilities. For example, in my own app, I've had it where I have a work tree that has a bot working on some aspects of user onboarding, whereas another work tree is working on some aspects of a cron job and background worker that work in sync together. And so putting them on different areas of your code base can be super helpful and make sure that your work keeps going even faster because now you're kind of handling both of those at the same time. So it's asking me a question, which is, do you want to allow creating a new branch? And the answer to that is yes. Go ahead and make the branch. And it looks like we are on it. And then it's going to do a get add script and then a get commit. And we're going to say yes to that. So we're going to merge main into the work tree. And so from this work tree, if I run a get log, we should expect to see all of that work here. Okay, so it's done a bunch of checks to see if we're ready, and now the moment of truth. So we're going to run git from inside of our canonical directory. We're going to do a merge fast forward only from this branch. Okay, so it says it succeeded, and let's have a look. We see in our git log here, we have our initialization, and then counter UI elements added, then the behavior added, and all of this merged into the same place. And if we run our simple HTTP server, let me pull it up over here and do a hard refresh. You can see that we are now incrementing a number. Okay, so what we just did was learn how to set up work trees, and the initial setup of the work tree inside of Codex is super simple, right? We just make a new chat, make sure that new work tree is selected, and then start working. From that, getting the work done and all of that, it's pretty simple. It's making sure that you're handling the get commits and merges correctly on the other side. That is still kind of one of those things that you just want to be very careful with. But again, like even in human environments, that's the part that you have to measure twice and cut once kind of thing. So I hope you found this useful. It's definitely going to change a lot in the Codex app as it goes. Again, even in the first week, I've seen it change over and over again. But if you're just trying to get in and wonder how to get up and running with work trees, like this is how I'm doing it. And so far it's been fantastic. I've had a couple of features I've shipped into production, working with agents that were isolated inside of work trees. So I hope you get some mileage out of it as well. Thanks for watching.